How's it going? Welcome to Good Company. If you are confused about conveyor belts, then you are in the right place. We're going to be going over pretty much everything. So if you have a question, it should be answered in this video. If it's not though, leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you. So how do we get our hands on conveyor belts? Well, first of all, we actually have to unlock them using business development. The requirements for this are going to be different depending whether you're playing free play or campaign mode, and you do unlock different parts of the conveyor belt at different stages. So here we are unlocking the storage segments, here is the overhead transporters, and here are the other stuff. Once we've got them unlocked, we do need to actually produce them. We can do that on a table, and the conveyor belts take 2 rods, 4 gears and 6 plastics. So what I like to do is set up a little setup like this. So we've got 2 tables making conveyor belts, 1 making rods and 1 making gears, with a corner shelf in the middle. To stop that corner shelf stacking up though with all the conveyor belts, I actually put a large shelf with every single slot set to conveyor belt parts and declare it as a sink. This just makes the logistics employees move the conveyor belts from the corner shelf over to this, and after a while this fills up with a lot of conveyor belt parts just to use whenever you want to. I've also set up a machine here that automatically makes conveyor belts, and I thought it'd be just fun to showcase what the different parts can do. So we've got some retrieval segments, we've got some mergers, we've got splitters, we've got the storage segments as well. So we'll be going over all of these things in detail in a bit, but first we actually need to know how the conveyor belts work. I've put together this little demonstration just to help explain what's going on with the conveyor belts and how it actually figures out where to send material. It's pretty much all automatic, however, we do need to do a little bit of configuration just to keep things flowing, and well, if you notice something backing up, knowing this stuff here is going to help you figure out what's wrong. So the conveyor belt will actually look down the whole line and figure out where there is space to put material. So at the end here we've got 1 slot for a stack of chemicals, so let's put a stack of chemicals on there, and that will send down that stack and it will make its way all the way to the end. The next thing it's going to look for is, now this storage is full up here, and it's going to look at the next thing on the line, which is the automatic storage segment. Now this has a buffer zone which we can set ourselves. At the moment we've got a buffer size of 1, and that is going to count as another storage slot. So let's put another stack of chemicals on and see it go down, and that should get stuck at the automatic storage segment. There we go. So we can actually increase the amount of spaces on our shelf here. So let's put the slot up to 2, and there we go. It's automatically known there is space now, so it's figured it out and done it automatically. There are more actual segments that do have buffer zones, so these conveyor mergers do, and the conveyor splitter does as well. So let's whack a few more chemicals down our line and see what happens. So our first stack has reached our storage segment. We now have 1 stuck in the conveyor merger, and we actually have 1 stuck in the conveyor splitter. Now if we increase the buffer size of our automatic storage segment, that is essentially the same as increasing the amount of logistics slots. So when we increase this, we have another chemical stack coming down, and that goes into our storage segment. And what actually happened as well, the chemicals that were in the conveyor splitter actually moved to the conveyor merger, and that allowed another stack to come down there. So that is a way of just figuring out what is stuck where, and you can actually increase the buffer zones to increase production, and it goes all the way up to 12. So you can actually have a lot of material moving through your conveyor belts. Now the good thing about the buffer zones is other materials ignore what's already in there. So if we set up a little plastic run here, we'll add in these. So let's add the plastic in. It knows there's a slot for plastic at the end. Even though this is all filled up with chemicals, it will bypass that and go straight onto the shelf because there is space at the end of the shelf. So that is fundamentally how the conveyor belts work. Hopefully that was good. Any questions, leave them down in the comments and I'll try to explain a bit better if that wasn't good enough. But let's move on to actually looking at the different segments now. One of the first more advanced segments you're going to be using are the overhead transporters. These come in 3 sizes, small, medium, large, and we can use them to route our conveyor belts around the factory without blocking stuff off. We can also use them to jump over like tables and pallets and shelves and everything, so it can really get you out of a corner. So for example, we can use a large overhead transporter to jump over this bot assembly table. There we go, our little batteries are going over there, looks really cool. Also we can go over other conveyor belts as well, so we'll use a small one there. Again, it looks really cool. And we can open up walkways to areas as well. So we've got this, these guys are really blocked in there, aren't they? So let's sort that out. We'll delete this little section here, and we'll put a small section in there, and now we have a walkway where our logistics employees can come in and out, and the speed of the conveyor belt isn't affected at all. So that's the main uses of the overhead segments. We're not really that complicated, but interesting to see what you can actually do with them. Next, we're going to take a look at the automatic retrieval and storage segments. These are going to be the first step into fully automating your production lines. Basically, these pick up and put down things on shelves and pallets. Takes a little bit of configuration to set up, but it's not too difficult. So say we want to take some batteries off of this shelf and we want to put them on this pallet here. So we have a logistics slot for our batteries, and we've got some batteries on here. So we need to go into the retrieval segment and select items to transport. We will then select the batteries and they will transport over. The storage segment should just automatically work. However, sometimes you do need to go in and set it. So if your production line does get stuck, it could be because of this. And we can actually have a setting here which shows the minimum stock that needs to be left on the shelf. So increasing that will leave more on the shelf. So we can actually take things off of pallets as well. It looks like you can't, but you can. And again, we'll just set that up like so. And also we'll do another storage segment like that. And again, no setup required, just it just works. And now we've got an infinite loop of batteries. Next on the list are the conveyor belt splitters and mergers, and these, well, split and merge conveyor belts. They do work automatically for the most part. There is a little bit of configuration though, just to get them working perfectly. So the mergers, we can have up to 3 conveyor belts going into one and then coming out the end. You can set which direction things come from and go to using these buttons here. However, not really necessary unless things are getting stuck. The splitters, on the other hand, we do want to actually configure these. So we can actually use these checkboxes to direct items through other areas. So let's get the conveyor belts going that way, and we'll have the batteries going the other way, and we can see that in action. Now these are actually really useful for merging different production zones into one, and then them going into a machine, or if you have a long distance for your conveyor belt to go and you don't want to use 2 separate conveyor belts, you can merge 2 into one, go the long distance, and then split up the other end. So really useful. We are going to have a little demonstration of something else in practice in a second, but that is basically conveyor belt splitters and mergers. These do have buffer zones in them as well, so again, if things are getting stuck, you can increase the buffer size or decrease as necessary, but that is basically the mergers and splitters. We're now going to take a look at how to use machines with the conveyor belts. We've got a small case machine here that makes plastic bot chassis. These require plastic and plastic sundries. We're making the plastic sundries over here, and these are automatically getting retrieved from the shelf, going down the conveyor belt here and into this merger and into this small case machine. And then we have plastic that arrives onto this pallet, and that comes around the outside into the merger and into there. Now the good thing about these machines is they will always figure out how much material it needs to take, so it won't take a full stack if it doesn't need to, and it will prevent that the whole thing from backing up. These will have arrows from where the conveyor belt needs to go in and where the product comes out. So you've got a big arrow here and then we've actually got the product icon, I guess, out here. Also, when you are putting down machines, it will have an arrow on the top of the machine, as you can see there, for the input and output. So that is a little example of how to use the mergers to merge together items and get them into one machine. So like I said, it should automatically figure out how much material it needs to take. However, if it is backing up, then just take a look at the buffer zones on each segment and should be able to unclog the conveyor belts. And finally, I thought it'd be a good idea to show you a useful real-world example of bringing all the different elements together to produce like a semi-automatic high output production facility. So here we've got a battery making machine that automatically takes material off our input pallet. So batteries are fully automatic here. These get put onto our pallet down here along with the plastic bot chassis. We also have 6 bot assembly tables here in a really compact layout. Normally we would have a dedicated shelf for each table to put their robots on. However, we have a retrieval segment hidden around the back that instantly takes off a toy robot when it appears on the shelf. So this means we can actually just use the corner shelf here and it won't stack up with toy robots on there. So those take off the toy robot. We've got a conveyor belt going around the back there. We've got a couple of mergers that bring the other production lines in as well. Comes around the outside here, and then because we've got a really high output of toy robots, we needed 2 pallets to actually meet the demand. So we have a splitter here which splits off the conveyor belts into 2 different sections, and it will just evenly distribute the toy robots onto the pallets. So yeah, that's just the example of how you can bring everything together and make something really good. So thank you for watching. Hope this video helped you. Any questions, suggestions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. But as always, stay safe, have fun. I'll see you on the next one.